All right, it says we're live. Double checking YouTube to make sure. Maybe. There we go. Okay, we're
Okay,
good.
perfect.
All right. Well, hi everybody. Welcome to this month's Tell It Again live show. Yes, we're doing it on a Saturday instead of a Sunday. We had some things going on this weekend and we had some things going on last weekend, and so things happened, and my birthday's tomorrow, and
Yay!
yay, birthday time. So, today, if you're unfamiliar, April and I have been trading off between two series over the last few months. So, today we will be discussing volumes 7 through 9 of Requiem of the Rose King. Now, we talk full spoilers in this chat. We have for a long time. So, if you're new here, expect spoilers. So if you want a non-spoilery intro to what's going on, go back and visit our live show on volumes 1 through 3. I believe I had that in the description. If not, I will add it afterwards. But yes, so we are continuing in the adventures of Richard and Henry, from Richard III and Henry VI from Shakespeare, and things really heat up in these. So, April, why don't you start with your thoughts?
Okay,
And
so
by the way, hi, super roommate.
yeah, I don't think I was mentally prepared for everything that went down in just these 3 volumes, because we started out in a place where Richard has just been captured, and Henry and Richard finally figure out who each other are, and that starts to like conflict with things in their brains. And there's just an innocence between their relationship that is just like totally shattered at this point. And then, of course, you've got all of these outside forces that completely just like devastate everything, because we have Richard and Henry. Which Richard and Henry? Okay, so Henry's got some of his own issues going on, and certain other people kind of play off of that, which then in turn causes Richard to have to make some very devastating decisions. And you're left in this place of, okay, so did Richard kill Henry or not? And then you continue on in these 3 volumes and you find out that no, Henry still exists. Henry doesn't know Henry's Henry. Henry is now an assassin, and he's working to help put Richard on the throne as the true king. And I think that whole dynamic
Thanks
there,
to our
first
lovely
of all,
friend Buckingham, which honestly, Buckingham. Whenever I think of like Buckingham, I automatically think of Robin Hood, of course, just because the Duke of Buckingham. But this Buckingham is a force to be reckoned with. I mean, come on, sir. Not only is he drawn far too handsome for his own good, but he is a master manipulator.
Oh, for sure. And then he's starting to realize some things too with his chosen king, that we don't get the conclusion of his investigation and where all of that is going to lead to. But he's
on the cover of volume 10. So
is he?
So he learns.
Yeah, there's some things going on between Richard and Buckingham, especially when we've brought in. Okay, so we've jumped ahead a couple years at this point, because all of the brothers now, well, are in the process of having children or have children, and the way what's the king's name at this point? I get all of them confused all the time. Edward? Okay, yeah, because the other Edward is dead.
Yes.
Edward is king. Edward is a player.
I believe Edward's king. I believe it's Edward.
Yeah. Yeah.
George because I used dead. To Edward is king.
Yes. Well, but Edward the prince is dead.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is why now Richard and Anne are married, which is a whole different dynamic there that is interesting to see, because there's kind of feelings, but there's kind of not. There's a little bit of animosity there, but at the same time, I'm getting so sidetracked because there is so much
There's
in
so
just
much
these 3
to
volumes.
dissect in these volumes. It's insane.
Because I
For
like how
3
Richard.
volumes of manga, it's more like 6 because so
Right.
much happens. Because we
Because I
have the
love.
mistress as well and all of that stuff going on.
Because I love how Richard is taking in children that are not his own, and he's totally okay with it. And there's
But
one
that's family.
scene. Yeah, there's one scene, I think it's at the end of this last volume that we read, where I can't remember what they called him, but the late Edward's son via Anne, who thinks Richard is his dad, is just asking for comfort in a moment of, will my dad die or not?
Yeah.
And it's just the sweetest thing ever. And I love
these poor
that
kids are just
scene.
along for the ride of all this crap.
Right. But yeah, you mentioned the whole mistress of King Edward and all of the stuff that she starts introducing to this whole plot line is just, it's extremely uncomfortable. And you have to wonder why Edward is king and if he's actually doing anything for the people. Because at this point, it's...
Which we all know he's not. He's just being a selfish lush.
For sure. So I was all over the place when I was reading these 3 volumes, because holy cow, the emotional roller coaster for just Richard alone. And then Anne, who has lost a husband, pretends to be her husband, lost her husband, finds out she's pregnant, ends up married to the man that she doesn't know if she really hates or not because of everything that goes down. Because right now she thinks that Richard has killed her father because of Buckingham and his whole shenanigan in that. Yeah, I don't know. I get all the feels from this series.
I can't. Right? It's part of why it's so good. Because the way that Ayakano has taken these 2 storylines and woven them together so seamlessly, where it's so interconnected, where you have to have both parts. You have to have both of these families for this story. And slowly, one by one, they're all getting taken down for one reason or another, usually associated with the throne. And certain people wanting to be king makers and have their king on the throne, which is what Buckingham is currently up to with Richard as his chosen king. And I have to touch on the fact that Buckingham went seeking out Henry after the initial confrontation where Richard was supposedly to have killed Henry. And it really helps us know that Buckingham knows what's going on, and he's using Henry to his own devices. So why Henry has no memory, we don't know. I still don't know, and I'm current on the series. I don't know why his memory's gone. But I will take it. I will take it because it's just going to make the final conflict of this story really, really good. What else was I going to bring up? Oh, just the fact the romantic element between Richard and Henry towards the end of volume 7 was something that when I initially read it, I did not expect it to go that far. But at the same time, it makes sense for these 2 very broken people to have found one another and to take it to that next level, despite all the shame and guilt that they feel inwardly about each other and about themselves. It's just such an interesting dynamic play that happened. Speaking of dynamic plays, we've only briefly touched on the mistress and her drugs and pleasure, trying to be the queen when she is not the queen.
Well, I'm trying to get a feel for the witch, Jane.
Uh-huh.
Because I don't know for sure if she actually wants to be queen. I think part of it is she just likes the chaos.
She likes to play the queen right now because she knows it grates on the actual queen.
Right. Like I said, I feel like there's more of a chaotic element there that she's like, these people are screwed up. Let me screw with them even more because they're just ultimately going to bring their own demise.
Mm-hmm. And just all of the things that happen and how we lose George and how all of that goes down. I did not remember that in history, like it happening that way, obviously, but the way that all went down was just so emotional for me. Like, I did not expect that. And at that point, George had already lost his wife. She had passed away. And so, like, he was just depressed and down in the dumps. And so, when he is killed by Henry, of all people, and reunited, like, there's this beautiful panel where he's reunited with, I believe Margaret was her name, was his wife's name. And it was just, I really actually enjoyed that moment because these were two people who were thrown into this chaos, even though they didn't want any part of it. But because of their families and their circumstances, they were thrown into it. I mean, Anne is the daughter of a man who was a kingmaker and wanted control and power in his own way, even though he wasn't of royal blood. And so he used his daughters as pawns in this game. And so, you know, Richard and Anne have their sham marriage. And so when Margaret and George are both dead, she's like, please let me raise these children. And Richard's like, fine, whatever. Did you really think I'd say no? I loved that line. Did you really think I'd tell you no? They're family. It's fine. Yeah. And so I just really enjoyed that whole dynamic. And it just shows that despite everything Richard's doing, Richard at their core is not a bad person. They are a person of their circumstances and what the world and what their inner demon tells them, that they are bad, they are demonic, they are not normal, they are not natural. And it's just such a thing.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how Richard and Henry are both a product of their family.
Oh, and very much.
All of the power grab and the interbreeding and the psychological like impact of what all of this power dynamic is doing to both families. They are like the end product and the extreme of what all of that is doing to these people just because they want this like sense of power. And it's just, it feels so dumb in so many ways, and trying to like think back into that time period and that mindset where these were actually the ruling powers and how all of that would trickle down to the people under them. It's devastating to think about.
Right. And the one thing with Richard is I feel like the only person who truly has Richard's back is Catesby.
For sure. No, Catesby, I love his character.
Is loyal to a fault when it comes to Richard, and I love Catesby for it, though, because Richard needs somebody in their corner because they've never had somebody truly in their corner, and Catesby's been that person for them, and I love and appreciate Catesby for that. He's one of my favorite characters because though he sees all this corruption and chaos going on around him, he is like, I'm going to protect this one, and he decided that long before people like Buckingham were making power plays for Richard. Richard chose to Catesby chose to protect Richard long before anybody else. And I love him for it. Catesby,
it's true. You get a sense that he knows a lot more about everything than he's letting on. And
those bodyguards and soldiers know more than they should, and people forget that.
Yep. They see things. And then they aren't seeing themselves.
Exactly. But yeah, so I think we've hit on all the major things that happened. There's so much we might have missed things. But with that said, we both highly encourage all of you to be reading this series because it is one of my all-time favorite manga series. It will constantly keep you guessing. The art is stunning. I mean, just the emotion that is evoked in these panels, even with no words, is phenomenal. And Ayakano is truly a master at their art. And I cannot wait to go into the next three because I know things and I want to say them, but I can't. And so I cannot wait for April to get there and for you guys to get there and for all of us to discuss it together.
Yeah, I'm paranoid because I kind of know what's coming with my boys in the tower and that whole thing. But oh yeah, there's gonna be emotions.
Mm-hmm. Definite emotions and definite feelings, that's for sure. So yeah, I think that's everything that we need to talk about with Requiem of the Rose King. Do you want to announce next month's read?
We are going back into the Abandoned series with Awaken by Meg Cabot. This is the last book in the series, so we're gonna finally figure out everything that's going on and hopefully get a little bit more backstory about some of these characters. So I'm excited.
We need to finish connecting the dots and wrap things up. So very excited for that to happen with that one.
And that's the 29th of August, I believe.
Correct. I did check that before we got going. So, all right, guys. Other than that, I think that pretty much wraps this one up. Kind of when we're in the middle of a series, we don't have to do a lot of intro and non-spoilery things. We just jumped straight into the spoilers. And with this one, there was so much. So, yeah. Thanks again. And we will see you guys on the 29th on April's channel to discuss the final book. Awaken?
Yes.
Awaken. I'm staring at it. Okay. Bye, guys.